righty. We are live. When that song gets going, I get a little distracted. It's one of my favorite songs, which is why it's the intro music. And Chris Caps is already in the chat. Hello, beautiful people, he says. I hope everyone is blessed. Amen. Blessed and highly favored. Praise the Lord. Oh, praise the Lord. Hallelujah. And obviously we are here with the one, the only, Brother Rudy Landa. No, that's not the one I wanted. Hey. So if you do a favor, everybody hit the share button. I'm going to hop over to Facebook real quick. Let's share this over to the Goslings. Let's share this over to the what's the name of the group? It's Watchers, Giants.
It's on there. I put it on there a little bit ago.
Oh, did you? Okay. Well, all right. You already beat me to it. I'm just going to share this to my stories, and okay, folks are coming in. Everybody who's coming in, please let us know where you are watching from. If you're watching from planet Earth, the flat Earth, the round Earth, Brandon, dude, I said flat Earth and he appeared. He appeared at the same time. Oh, dude. Brandon, I love you so much, man. I wish I could wake up almost every morning with a phone call from you with just some, brother, I'm into this now. And I wonder if you watched that Abraham Lincoln or that Tartaria stuff that I sent you. So we are here this evening with a very special guest. Not only is he a believer, not only is he Hispanic, not only is he a musician, he's like, I don't know, man. You're like Indiana Jones and Sting. Sting. I don't know about Sting. Indiana Jones and Prince had a Latino baby.
Okay, sure.
He's just getting warmed up, y'all. I promise.
That's big shoes, man. That's a lot of expectation you're building.
Well, I mean, anybody that can play, that can go from, hey, I've been at the ministry television station working all day, and let me come into this Toto band and play and sing these Toto songs, even though I haven't really had a whole lot of time to practice, and play them like at an A- level and you're not playing every day. You're in an office every day in an edit bay producing television and movie stuff. That was a really cool gig that I had for about 30 seconds. I gotta say, yeah, it really was. I know. I mean, hey, man, just the Lord.
I worked myself out of that gig.
You did. It was beneath you. It was beneath you. You needed to go around the world chasing giants, but we're going to get to that.
That's what it was, right? I mean, that's what it was.
It was.
At the beginning of this project.
You were getting ready to do this, and you're like, man, I really want to do this, but I just don't have the time. And
you got to give context to that. What are you talking about? What is that? What is it we're talking about?
Yeah, so back in when Rudy and I were starting to become chummy, I was like, hey, man, I'm starting this Toto tribute. I hadn't told a lot of people, and, you sing and play guitar. Do you think you'd be up for something like that? And I don't even remember how the conversation came about being. I don't know if I mentioned it to you or if I asked you, and, you came in, you played the Rosanna solo note for note, and what's up, you know it. And, yeah, you came in the rehearsal, and it was pretty good. And like, dude, yeah, let's do this. And after I think the second rehearsal, you're like, man, this is going to take a lot of time, and I'm going to be traveling the world for like the next 18 months. So,
and it took my time, didn't it? I mean, you can attest to how much of my time it took.
Bro, you were like, hey, man, you were gone for like 2 months, and it'd be like, hey, man, you want to grab some barbecue? And it'd be like 3 months later, we're like, yes, absolutely. So, and it actually was hard for us to get together because I was still touring full time, and you were touring, you were chasing, doing all this archaeology stuff. So, yeah, it was pretty bonkers. It was.
I've got to give you props, man. You are probably the only person that keeps the same hours that I keep.
And I'm trying to fix that. I'm trying to get to bed at a decent hour, not be. I am getting better. I seldom see. Hold up. So I had a relapse last night. I sound like I'm recovering from some kind of addiction, but yeah,
that's right.
I did. I had a relapse last night. I didn't go to bed till almost 2, but before then, I hadn't seen 1 o'clock in like a month.
Oh, dude. All I know is that during the research process of this, during the writing process, during the post production, pretty much all of it, pretty much the whole production, pre and post. My days don't start till about, when I'm in the thick of it, my days don't start till about probably 2-3 p.m. because, well, as a musician, and you know this, we our brains are not fully awake until the late part of the day, and so
12:35 p.m.
Exactly, and so I have to have some office hours because I just do have, clerical and administrative stuff I have to do that involves, the rest of the company. But then when the creative juices are going, I mean, it's 11 to 3 a.m., 4 or 5 a.m., and so I would just on a whim shoot you a text message and you immediately see the little dots and you start responding. So I always knew I could count on you.
Somebody else is awake.
Somebody else is suffering like I am.
Not alone. I just got demonetized. Those Sony got my money. Okay. Anyway, so let's start since everyone entering the chat, they've kind of walked into the middle of a conversation between two friends. So let's start at the beginning, man. 3 a.m. is your bedtime. 3 a.m. is your bedtime, Corey? You still staying up that late? But let's start at the beginning. So you were not actually born in the U.S., so you can't be president. Unless somebody changes it, and then Arnold's going to be the first one in line. He's gonna be like, I want to be the president. I know I could do it. I could do everything. I'm the world's best bodybuilder. Yeah, I have to slip Arnold in here somewhere. The world's greatest actor. And now I'm the governor. Now I'm the president. So you're not born in the country. Nope. Your father was a pastor. Like, take us from the beginning. How in the world? How do you get?
Well, I'll give you the speed readers version.
There you go.
Yeah, my parents came from Bolivia, South America, which a lot of people don't know where that is. But if you think of the map of Latin America or South America, I'm sorry, as a dartboard, if you throw a dart and you hit bullseye in the middle, it's pretty much Bolivia. But they moved here when I was 11 months old, or I'm sorry, a year and 11 months or something like that. I was little. And my dad was, at the time, by career, he was a diesel mechanic, a heavy equipment diesel mechanic. So he worked in the oil rigs. That was his trade. And so the oil companies dragged us around the world. And by the time that I was 12 years old, I had lived in Africa, I had lived in Ecuador, I had lived in Bolivia, I had lived in Tampa, I had lived in Oklahoma City. I mean, I could take you, like place by place, but it was, by the time that I was 12, my family finally settled in Florida, in Miami, and so my teenage years were in Miami, and in Miami I got into all kinds of fun teenage trouble.
There's lots of things to get into in Miami.
Absolutely. And so, but I learned to play guitar in my teens, and I was actually kind of a late bloomer, man. When everybody was out partying and stuff, especially in middle school, I was playing guitar in my room Friday night, Saturday night, Sundays, and so my dream was to be Dan Huff or Steve Lukather, and so as soon as high school was over, we got slammed by Hurricane Andrew. My family lost everything. Yeah. To Hurricane Andrew, but around that time, right before leading up to Hurricane Andrew, my father, who was a mechanic, he had become a believer, and man, I got to tell you, his conversion to being a believer was amazing. Was nothing short of supernatural, and he went from being an alcoholic and a womanizer and a druggie and drug user, not a druggie, but a drug user, to becoming eventually a pastor, pastoring a church until he passed away a couple of years ago. But just a man that I absolutely came to admire, who became not just a role model, but a hero. And so anyway, I ended up in Charlotte in the year 2000 via 7 years in Nashville, which were my formative years in the industry. And God had other plans than playing guitar, and I ended up doing television and had a Cinderella career and start. God put people in my life that not just mentored me, but it gave me gave me a leg up and gave me opportunities that I can only attribute to being God's providence, So I've been blessed with opportunities, with favor, and I love what I do. I have 3 wonderful children they're absolutely my life, and as of this last year, I have 3 grandchildren that are living in Texas at the moment. So
love it.
So yeah.
I don't know if it is. I don't know if it's I'm getting older or just old people don't look as old, but you don't look. Or maybe it's just that we're ethnic and we just don't show our age like some people do. They say black don't crack, but brown don't frown.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, whether you feel like your grandfather or not, you end up being one, and you are one. You're stuck with it, whether you look like it or not. So, but no, I'm very, very blessed. I have wonderful kids, and yeah, man, we love what we do and we do what we love. And yeah, I work. I'm here at this company. I'm at Answer Quest, which I've been here a long, long time now, and we've put together this film that has basically owned my life for the last 3 years. Between the pre-production, post-production, and COVID in between.
Yeah.
Multiple lockdowns and all that stuff that got in the way, but finally we've seen daylight, and we're to the point where we can distribute this.
So. Oh yeah, and we're gonna save the. I don't want to get to the film yet because once we get there, man, there's not talk. We ain't gonna be talking about much else.
Right on.
So how did you go from So you went to Nashville to be a guitarist, right? So you were when you were playing in middle school and high school. Were you playing in church? Were you playing in bands? Were you playing in bars?
I was playing everywhere that they had a stage and they'd let me play.
Wherever you could play.
I jammed with guys in high school. I played in bands. I played in all kinds of stuff. I did a very short college stint. That's a very tragic one. The school that I was going to, it was a quasi-vocational technical music and video production center in Miami Beach, on South Beach, in the early 90s. What could go wrong, But it was literally on South Beach. My apartment, it's so funny, when they do those epic shots of Miami Beach and the Art Deco district and all that, I see my apartment all the time. It was literally 4th floor overlooking the ocean, and I had the dream life for about a year. Unfortunately, the administration or the bookkeeping of the school was not doing so well, and the feds shut it down while we were on spring break, right before Hurricane Andrew. So
that didn't have to do anything with you doing Bolivian type things, did it?
No, not at all. Not at all. No.
I'm sorry, I have to.
No Bolivian shenanigans.
Don't worry, folks. I'm sure many Dominican jokes will be coming soon. Baseball and beer.
Yeah, no, it's on now.
He's like, I just heard him slip a glove off. No. All right, so then you go to Nashville. You're wanting to be, and
after the school went under, and we were kind of all left wondering what are we going to do. I thought, what, man. I had done a semester at FIU, at Florida International, and I found out real quick that the only thing I could do with my degree at the time, if I stayed as a music major, was to be a band teacher. And the first thing I thought about was I will beat a child. I'm not built for this.
I ain't cut out for that.
Know what you're good at? Know what you're not good at. So so no, that went away, and so I thought, you know what, man, I'm young. I don't have any responsibilities here right now. I had to help my parents rebuild their home as much as I could at the time. And they gave me their blessing to go and chase life, to chase my dreams. And so I did the quintessential throw the guitars in a couple of boxes in the van, the little minivan that used to break down at every corner. And they got me to Nashville. And that was the start of my Nashville life. I went to swing a hammer for the first winter and about died. Mr. Miami with his tan, all of a sudden in the brutal Tennessee winter, man. It was a lot of fun, but no, it was I wouldn't change it for anything.
And what was the name of the guy that I met, that I texted you, that you wanted to be like? He's been in like so many different bands, and you're like, man, if I'm not gonna be Dan Huff, I want to be this guy. What was his name?
Well, that was another one of my life. See, here's the thing. You remember back when cassettes and records at liner notes.
Oh, yes. Back when we knew who was playing our records.
Exactly.
Before the dark times, before AI.
That's right. But there was a guy that I had seen play, I want to say in 9th grade. I went to an Amy Grant and Michael W. Smith concert in the Miami Arena. Go Heat, by the way.
Oh, yeah.
And so that night they introduced him and they said, hey, the guitar player is one of you guys from your hometown, from right here from Miami. This is Chris Rodriguez, And I thought, man, that is cool, because everybody, just gave him the homecoming, the hero's welcome. And I was like, man, that's cool. I want to be him, And so I followed his career, man. And I mean, that dude went to play for Kenny Loggins and Shania Twain, Kelly Clarkson, Keith Urban. I mean, you name it,
Mm-hmm.
And so
on top of all the Christian artists that he played on records and toured with.
Absolutely. And so I used to read all these liner notes, and it's funny how there were so many people in my life, because Miami is kind of its own planet, to be honest with you. And so,
Much
yeah,
like
I mean,
New York
we had
City.
What's that?
Much like New York City, it's its own thing.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like there's Florida, there's the Mouse, and then there's Miami.
Yeah, exactly. And so, so my point in saying that is that, the whole knowing about, at the time it was called CCM, the CCM world, which was, hubbed out of Nashville. You really had to go looking for it. And obviously before the web. So the connection, believe it or not, to what was going on in the industry a lot of times was either the CCM magazine or it was the liner notes to know who was playing on what records. And I thought it was amazing how guys like Dan Huff would play on secular stuff, but they would also backbone the Christian industry. I mean, and guys like Chris Rodriguez, they were playing on everything, singing on everything. And you know what? God can use whatever. In my life, he used them as a target, as something to aim for. I think every parent who's had a child that does music is, at one point or another terrified, and get a real job, or have music,
what's your backup plan?
Exactly. So, but my parents were awesome at that, and they knew really fast that I did not want a backup plan. That's what I wanted.
Yeah.
And they said, hey, you know what? If you fail, come home, but at least you'll never be thinking, what if?
Yeah, and you didn't. So
no,
so
God
where
had
did
plans,
the
man.
video, where'd the video side? Because you go there, you're there to play music, and then you end up being a videographer. We're gonna get to the whole. So any Carman fans out there, hold on, especially Chris Capps. He's as big a Carman fan as I am. So we're gonna get to Carman. How do you go? So you're playing guitar all the time. Where did you learn to be a videographer and then do stuff on the highest level, for broadcast network?
Well, what's funny, man, is you can, after a long time has happened. I mean, has passed. Sometimes you can step back and look at a situation collectively, right? And you can see where, at a particular season in time, looking back now, I can see that God was working not just in my life, starting me where he wanted, but a lot of my friends, people that have become lifelong friends, their lives were in transition at the same time. You know what I mean? It's almost like like God was bringing pieces together to do something, and he did. What is now the Trinity Music City Auditorium or complex in Nashville was a brand new purchase to Trinity Broadcasting at the time. And as much as I didn't start working in video right away, literally the first weekend that I was in Nashville, I was house sitting for somebody just as a little side gig, for money, a friend of a friend. And the phone rang, and I was actually sick, man. I had food poisoning, and I stumbled my way to the phone and answered it. And it was somebody who became a very dear friend later on, offering me a utilities job for a video shoot at this new facility. Well, for those who don't know what a utilities job is, it's basically a cable puller. You run around with the handheld camera, pulling their cable, making sure they don't trip up and fall or whatever. And man, I had taken video classes in that technical school that I told you about, and despised it. I hated video, and I swore that I would never do it. You know? Exactly. So that's right. That's right, man. I own it. I own it. Don't tell God you're not going to do something.
That's right. Lord, I can't lead them. He's like, well, guess what? You're going to be spending the next 40 years in the desert with them.
Exactly. So, yeah. So, but I went, man, and I worked, and at the end of the day, I was like, this is pretty cool, you know? And the guy who was directing and who was the production manager of that facility now laughs at me, like laughs with me. And he says, he remembers me saying, hey, this is pretty cool. He's going to do more of this. I want to do this again, you know? And it was cool. But, from then, man, after that, you know, I had that was a one-off at the time because the theater was just getting started. That production facility was getting birthed, you know? And so that was September, and probably until like January of the following year, I swung a hammer, man. I was a construction worker, like I said, in the dead of winter in Nashville, up at 5 a.m. Those tools were cold, frozen, everything. I mean, you know, I had a boss who we had to take a bunch of packs of shingles up to a roof, and it was frozen. Ugh. And so he said, if you fall off before you hit the ground, you're fired. So it was again, they were trying times, and it wasn't easy, but man, I loved it. You know, absolutely. It was living, you know, I was having the time of my life. So
tell us, how'd you get from, that was your first video gig pulling cables. How long before you were doing that thing, like you were on the road with Carman being his videographer?
No, that was okay. So I'll give you the speed reader story of that. So basically, in television, you have this camera that's called a crane. You know, it's a jib, and there's a camera, you know, on the crane, and you move it around remotely from the base. Well, I had a really good friend of mine, another dude that had befriended me, super nice guy, because he was new in town as well, you know, so he was another one of these guys that was trying to find his way, you know, and so they put me to help him because there's a lot of work in those cranes to assemble it, disassemble it, move it, and all this stuff. So we became really good buddies. And during downtime on the productions, he would show me how to use it, how to get on there and, you know, use the remote, the controllers in the back, the servos or whatever. Mm-hmm. And one day someone didn't show up. And he told again, the guy who was the production manager, who was a lifelong friend and mentor to me, Russ Hall. He said, hey, why don't you, you know, the guy didn't show up, and we were literally about to go live. Like, and when I say live, man, they used to go live to the world. Literally, Trinity Broadcasting would go live to the world.
Oh yeah, go to
every night.
Jan Crouch and Paul Crouch.
That's right. But they said, he said, hey, why don't you put Rudy on? He's been it sounds like the movie, you know, like put Rudy and let him play, you know.
Rudy,
but he said, yeah, exactly. So, you know, why don't you put him on, you know? And Russ literally went, Rudy, really, Rudy, you know. So they took a chance on me, man. He put me on there, and I didn't crash and burn. I did okay, you know. And so starting from that day, they kind of started rotating me in when they could. The same guy, that his name is Paul. He was at the time the Nashville producer for Real Videos. I don't know if you remember Real Videos, which was the TBN music video show at the time, you know. And so he basically was
had like four people. It's like, you know, let's rotate Amy Grant, Carman, and DC Talk.
Yeah, well, exactly. That was the early days. But by the time that the 90s came around, they were actually doing well. And if you were in Nashville, there was a lot of programming opportunities.
Oh,
There were a lot
you had Carman, you had Anointed. I mean, there was a lot of.
There was a lot more than that. Switchfoot, you know.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Yeah, but you know, so so I helped them, you know, and it was a field camera type of thing. We would, you know, take a field camera, go interview people and stuff. Well, he was sick of it. He just did not like doing it, and it was becoming a chore to him. And he said, "Hey, man, can you read the questions to them while I film? I don't want to do this." I was like, "Yeah, sure, I'll read the questions," you know. So I sat there, and we had a really good interview, you know. And so he said, "Hey, can you do the next ones too?" And I was like, "I would love to do the next ones," you know. So he let me do that, and pretty soon, I mean, I want to say a few months after that, right around GMA week, actually, his freelance career took off, and he called me. He said, "Hey, man, I have committed to doing these tapings, and I can't pass up this freelance work. Would you be interested in in just kind of taking over? And we can send a camera operator with you, and you just you can schedule the shoots or whatever." Man, that was the moment that I realized producing is what I wanted to do. And I actually got my hands in the batter and scheduled a few more interviews. I had met a few of the publicists around town, some of which are still very dear friends of mine to this day. And little by little, it started kind of coming together. This is what you want to do. You want to pull people together. You want to pull interviews together. You want to tell a story. You want to, and and of course, fast forward 25, 27 years down the line now. It's a long time. Some of the things that that a producer does now, like editing and things like that, were kind of not necessarily a given. So it was a very, very slow burn and a slow process. But that's when I came to the realization, this is what I want to do. And I can, man, within 3 years, within 3 years I was producing, and I felt that's what I had to do. And at the time there was a job opening here in Charlotte, at the place where I still am at now. And I applied and I got it, man. And this has just been an amazing place to work at for the past 25 years, 23 years.
So we're going to get I want to get to the Angels and Giants, but you skipped Carman.
Yeah, you want to hear Carman.
I'm a Carman fanboy, bro. Tell me who's in the house.
Well, so here's the thing. So, one of the cool things about doing television is that if you're diligent and if you can keep up with it, you can also do freelance work, not necessarily as a staff member. Does not necessarily mean it's the end of your freelance career. And so for a season there, I was actually based out of Miami, believe it or not. And so the same guy that I've mentioned several times, Russ Hall, called me and said, we're doing it was after 9/11. And we did a big, I want to say it was the second or third anniversary of 9/11, did a very, very big patriotic concert, patriotic themed concert with your guy Carman, your buddy. And so he was the headliner. Big concert, huge auditorium, lights, big moving lights, dance choreographed numbers and all this stuff. But what we did is we broke up the concert with these video packages that would play while they were doing costume changes and all that stuff. Mm-hmm. So Russ hired me to basically produce those, and another editor in Nashville, Jeff Hoffman, and I edited those to be. We pre-produced them to show them at the concert. So I was on the road with Carman for probably collectively 3-4 months, I think. That's on and crazy. Off.
Are you jealous, Caps? Chris Caps. Are you jealous at Chris Caps? I think he might be as big as Carman fan as I am. Maybe.
Oh, really?
Maybe.
Yeah, but yeah, no, that was really cool. That was some really funny stories. He was a really funny dude. No, he's no longer with us, But yeah, it's great stories from the road with that guy. And yeah, so we pulled that together. I think that I showed you the tapes that I found the other day. I think, right? Where he's picking on me. Yeah, I'll have to show them to you. Remind me, and I'll show you the Carman goofiness.
Caps has got tears. Telling you, man. Now, he blessed a lot of us. Okay, so start guitar. I mean, the Lord brings you to the U.S. Thinking I'm go to Nashville. I'm gonna be a musician, full-time musician. Be this, foot in both worlds. Bring the gospel to the world. You end up carrying a cable, and now you're on your third documentary. Like this is your third, this is like your third film, right?
No. Gosh.
Like film that you've done like yourself, right?
Six or seven.
Okay. Yeah. Were they all documentaries, or so? Tell us, like.
Well, okay. So here at the company, as a staff producer, you pretty much the gig is that you pretty much do whatever they tell you. Because the thing is, a lot of people don't really understand, and they ask me all the time, what is a producer? Because the term has gotten so overused, man. The title of producer. And so what I tell people is just equate it to a project manager, you know? And so as a project manager, you have the latitude. You basically carry all the liability on you, you know? But for the most part, you get to drive a ship, you know? And so whatever the network, whatever project comes down the pipe through the network, it gets assigned to a producer. And so you take it and you run with it and you see it through to completion, you know, pre-production, production, and post-production. And so, my first film with the network was a rebuttal to the late Peter Jennings' The Search for Jesus. I don't know if you remember that, but it was a film that stirred up a lot of controversy because they went to these experts, the Jesus seminar people.
The Gospel of Barnabas and the Gospel of
exactly,
you know, Thomas and Gospel of Mary Magdalene.
Yeah, so they completely upset a lot of people. Well, our CEO said, "Hey, we're going to do a rebuttal to this," and there's a gentleman, I'm sure you've heard of him. His name is John Ankerberg, but he's huge into apologetics. Huge, I mean, just a genius of a man. And the first documentary, it was more of a director and post-production producer.
What was the name of the film?
It's called Jesus: The Search Continues. Was the name of the first one. And it was a 2-hour special. And I'll tell you what, man, I got to work alongside John Ankerberg on that, and I got to learn so much about the process. Learned a lot from him, not only from from the standpoint of the content, you know. But I learned a lot about how to tell a story through the interview process, how to really drag. I mean, he was interviewing guys like William Lane Craig, man. I mean, just incredibly. I mean, those guys have forgotten more about the Bible in the last 5 minutes than I will ever know, you know. Yeah. But just seeing him tell the story, start to put together the narrative ahead of time, excuse me, and then be able to actually pull the content out of them. And I don't mean, I want to make sure that I say that correctly. I'm not saying that he was writing the narrative ahead of time. In this particular situation, the narrative was already agreed upon because we all knew that the purpose of the film was basically to come to the defense of traditional Christianity and to debunk all the nonsense these guys had you know, thrown all over the place.
Uh-oh. Come on, catch up, internet. There it goes. You know, hold up. It's catching. Come on, internet, catch up. There we go. I think we're good.
Okay.
Go for it.
So yeah, to see him extract the content out of those guys was something that I will never forget, and something that to this day I aspire to do. You know, when I sit down to interview somebody, I know what I want to hear, and it's not that I want to put words in their mouth. That's not what I want to do. Even if they're saying something that I disagree with, I want to make sure that they say it, and they say it to the best of their. If I know that it's in them and they can give it to me better, I will pull it out of them. You know, And that was something that I will always be grateful for, is that I had the chance to work with him. Just an amazing man.
And I put it in the comments. So
what's that?
I found it. It was on his website, so I put it in the comments.
Oh, cool. Yeah. So that was my first one, and then we've done, you know, just a ton of other, you know, network type stuff along the way. But then the next film was when they did the Lost Tomb of Christ. I don't know if you remember that other mess, and it was not Oliver Stone, the guy that did Titanic.
With James Cameron.
Thank you, James Cameron, and Simca, the naked archaeologist guy. They claimed that they had found the tomb of Jesus in Talpiot in Jerusalem, and that his bones were still in it, you know, or that the ossuaries with the bones were still. All this just man, even the secular archaeologists, not to mention Christian archaeologists, but secular and Jewish archaeologists, all said, man, you are wagging the dog like crazy, man. You know, you can't be saying these things. You have to follow the scientific process. You can't just, you know, start saying all these things. So that was the other one. That was called His Tomb is Empty. And That was the second one that we did. So, yeah, and yeah, then there's been other ones. There was one that we did a few years ago, man. That was for me possibly my most personal film, and that was I don't know if you remember. There's a local family. They're in ministry, but they were in a horrible car accident, and they lost both of their children. Their toddler, and she was expecting, so she the baby passed in the accident. I don't know if you remember that, but it was the Eddings family story, and we were, man, I was at the time I was actually playing guitar for him. He was a worship leader, and
yeah. Yep.
Yeah, and so it was terrible, and I felt kind of bad, but I knew as they were going. I mean, it shook up the entire community. It was horrible, absolutely horrible, But man, I knew that story was, the tragedy was too big for God to let it go wasted, and I knew big things were going to come out of that. And while we were in the green room the morning after the accident, and we were just in a state of total shock, because this little guy used to run around the green room, man, and and we were the collective babysitters, in the green room, looking out for him. and yeah, during the time of prayer, there's so many people just mourning. I had to take my camera out and take pictures, because I somehow had already determined we're going to make a documentary out of this, because the amazing things that are going to come out of it. And I'm okay to say this, by the way, because the Gentry and Hadley know about this, and so I was.
And you did the film, so.
Well, right, exactly. I was beyond honored and favored that they allowed me to tell their story. I think if I'm not mistaken, I think the Ellen Show wanted to do their story, and they said no. So for me, dude, to like the honor, the privilege to be able to tell their story was just amazing. And
what was the name of the film?
That one's called Be Still and Know. Yeah, is the Eddings family story. So so we did that, and then pretty much on the heels of that, and to be honest with you, kind of overlapping. Well, real quick, the back end of that story is that they forgave the guy who, it was an accident where a guy was on drugs, rear-ended them with a truck, killed their children, almost killed them, and they went to the court and forgave the guy and told him that, we've been forgiven, so how can we not forgive you?
Wow.
And it made like international headlines, man. I mean, we were getting, I was getting newspaper clippings from like China, from like Europe, all over the world, and so it was amazing. It was just an amazing story of forgiveness, so that was pretty amazing. And what's crazy is that after, like I said, we were overlapping with another production that was going on, because we were literally documenting along the way. A couple of years later, after that happened, they got pregnant again with twins, and
wow.
So it was, we were there. We got the footage of the moment that they announced it to their church, and so it was like God returning, obviously not returning their children, but returning the joy of being able to be parents to two little boys again.
Absolutely.
So yeah, and then after that, Apocalypsis, which was another 4-part, 4 hours of end times.
Which I've seen that,
stuff.
And y'all, if you want to do a Rapture deep dive, that thing is. I watched it with my mom, and we were we were captivated. I was texting you the whole time, and it was funny because when we were watching it, I was texting you, and Ellie Marzulli was texting you.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's right.
Yep.
Yeah. I forgot about that. Yeah. So yeah, and then after that, and see that's technically, I guess, one project. They're 4 episodes, man. They're 4-hour-long episodes. To me, they count like 4 documentaries, and each one had its own its own narrative, its own beginning, middle, and end. So yeah, so it's been busy. It's been a busy time. And then of course this last one, which happened right in the middle of the madness that was the year 2000. 2020. Sorry, not the year 2000. Yeah, that was life consuming, life altering, and so.
And that brings us to Angels and Giants.
That's right. Yeah, which was that project.
All right, dude. So, how did it come? Like, what's the film about? How did it come to be? Where did you go? Like, just walk us through the whole thing. Because we got some Nephilim giant folk in here. So thanks y'all for hanging out so long. Because I know we had, but
yeah,
I wanted
for real.
I didn't know it.
No, enough for me, man.
They didn't know who you were, so I was like, I didn't want to just skip over that and be like, oh, let's just get to the good stuff. It's like, oh, there's Jonathan Goss. There he is.
Oh yeah, there he is.
I'm sorry, I have
to look off camera too. That's right. Okay. No, I have not served in the military. My son. Somebody asked if I've served in the military.
Yeah,
my son served in the military.
Yep.
He was an infantry soldier, and yeah, very proud of him. And he's the one that's made me grandpa 3 times over. So, no. So when we were wrapping Apocalypses, we were in the literally in the cleanup process. The CEO said one night in a creative meeting, he said, "What's next? What are we going to do next?"
Tell Will McGlenn good night. He's peacing out.
Oh, is he? Good night, Will. You know what? I got to say, man, that's one cool dude.
Him and Kelly,
and his wife.
Him and Kelly, they are awesome.
Kelly can sing
and minister the gospel. Good. He didn't go to bed. He caught it. He said what's up earlier, but we were in the middle of stuff. So
okay.
I wanted to make sure that we recognized and acknowledged him before he went to bed. But I know once we get in this, we're gonna be in this. So y'all get ready with them giant questions.
Where are you seeing this? Are you seeing this on?
Oh, it's on Facebook. So I have a thing where I can see everybody's comments from my 2 Facebook pages and YouTube. So
can I see the Facebook one or no?
Yeah, if you pull it up on a different window.
Okay.
We love you, brother.
Yeah. So we were in the process of wrapping up Apocalypses, and the CEO said, what's next? Because the thing is, man, for our operation, for our network, we really, these kinds of projects really stretch us a lot. We're not the History Channel. We're not, we're not Nat Geo, so in order to try to put something out that's up to par, it takes a lot of wearing a lot of hats by a lot of different people, and so
it's like church. You have, you need 50 people for the job. We got 12 people. Make it happen.
Pretty much. And so yeah, when that happened, it was, we felt a sense of, of accomplishment, I don't want to say pride because that kind of just brings up a whole other connotation, but we felt really good. We were very thankful, first of all, for the opportunity, and second of all, for the end product, for the end result, It was a very big team building. A lot of people were pulled in to be, extras or to be whatever, and so in the middle, when that was over, the CEO said, okay, what's next? Because, we've kind of raised the bar. Now we have to raise it again, Well, coincidentally, a friend of mine had been talking about the Nephilim, and I said, what about something on the Nephilim? And no sooner did the words come out of my mouth, it's like somebody lit a fire under him, and he jumped up. He said, yes. Like, hang on a second. So he ran to another room and comes back with Giants, Sons of the Gods, which is Doug Van Dorn's book, And he said, have you read this? And I said, no, I've not. It was right before Christmas time. And so he gave it to me. He goes, here's your holiday homework, So he gave me homework, but I devoured that book, man. And then, I came back to work at the beginning of the next year. I put together a proposal for what we were thinking of doing at the time, and he signed off on it, very excited. And I reached out to Doug Van Dorn, and it was such a, he was very happy to help us do it or whatever. I think he was a little not, I don't want to say standoff. She's a little unsure, which I don't blame him. He didn't know me from Adam. At first, he's like, what's going on? And not only that, man, but Man, oh man, we were laughing about this the other day. At the beginning of the meeting process, when I tried to reach out to him to see if he would be a consultant on this, excuse me. I called him and I called him and I called him, and he wouldn't answer his phone. Right. So I let the weekend go by. I called him again on Monday morning, first thing in the morning, and he answers the phone. Hello, and I'm like, can I speak to Doug Van Dorn, please?
Creepy.
Dude, the guy was sick, and not only was he sick, he lives in Denver, dude, and I live in Charlotte. So he's in Mountain Time.
Oh,
so I'm calling him at 8 a.m. and it's 6 a.m.
Oh my gosh.
So this guy's like dying over there, and it's 5:30 in the morning or something like that,
Oh.
So so I'm like rookie mistake, So we're laughing about that the other day, but yeah, no, eventually we were able to connect, and it's amazing, man, because it's one of these things that it's one of these divine appointments where it's like you feel like you've known each other for years. He's literally throughout this process of the last couple of years become one of my closest and dearest friends. And in fact, when we were doing press on Skywatch TV for this, I requested to have him come on with me, and he did. So yeah, Doug's become a very, very dear friend. But we launched into that kind of using. I don't want to say that I didn't know anything about the Nephilim before or the Watchers, but I kind of probably knew as much as the average churchgoer.
Well, the average churchgoer don't know nothing. So
no, exactly. It's what I call a speed bump verse in Genesis 6.
Well,
where you just kind of,
and that even depends on the translation, because if you have the
right.
The translation, it's like it's not even anything.
That's right.
It's like,
That's
the
right.
mighty men. There was mighty men. Okay, you got to read the King
right.
James or giants.
And so you read over it, and it's like a speed bump. Boom, you just go right over it and keep reading.
Keep
and that's basically as much as I knew about the Nephilim. And to be honest with you, I've never had really stopped to really think about it. But what was amazing to me once we got once I started reading up on it and whatnot, and reading and studying on the people who actually have been following this all their lives, it was the realization of how much room the Nephilim have been given in even pop culture in the modern world, and how much they've influenced all these stories of ogres, all these stories of Bigfoot, all of these things.
And even the Greek god. I mean, half the Greek gods are,
Absolutely.
they just renamed them like, oh no, they're demigods. No, they're Nephilim. No, demigod sounds prettier.
Well, and the thing is, a lot of those, especially specifically with the Greek and the Roman mythology, the whole concept of the chimera and whatnot, it matches pound for pound with the Watchers, and the Watchers, the Nephilim, and not only that, but like the portion of the scripture that talks about them corrupting all flesh, and so anyway, we can get caught up in that or whatever, but basically all of that Roman, Norse, and Greek mythology lines up perfectly. You can see where the beginning of those things could very easily have come from, So when the realization of that hit me, it was very eye-opening, very, very eye-opening. And then I proceeded to study for about 4 months, man, of just reading, and then reading some more, and studying and reading articles, watching videos, all kinds of stuff to fully immerse myself into it as much as I could, to then try to go tell a story,
Yeah.
So then after all the studying and whatnot, I did my first interview, which was Doug Van Dorn. And what's amazing is that you can have 5 different people tell you the same story about, go through the same content, and you're always going to get something new and a different angle from everyone, Yep. So yeah, that was the start of it, man. And then, like I said, the production of it would take over a year, just a year of going from place to place to place to place.
And tell us like some of the places that you went to, and then we'll show them some of this B-roll that we got.
Well, in order, what we did is, since it's no matter how you slice it, at first we tried we tried to give it a little bit of crossover appeal, to give it a little bit of I don't want to say secular appeal, but crossover, mainstream appeal, you know. So we decided to de-Sunday schoolize it, if you will, just in the presentation, not necessarily in the content, but just in the presentation, the way that we presented, even like the scriptures and things like that. And so we wanted it to be something, the content matter in and of itself is very, it can come across kind of out there as it is. There's no need to sensationalize it further, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
So we set out to try to stay away in as much as was possible from the cheese factor, you know, and to try to present something, because that's the thing, man. I mean, you know, how do you portray, giants walking the earth without these big Hollywood budgets, you know? So you got to be really, you know, and kudos to my visual effects guy here, Arturo Mesa. He's just amazing, and Byron Nash. Just these guys are unbelievable to do the things that they do with what they've got. They're just amazing.
Those they were almost like slow motion GIF.
Well, we used a process called 3D parallax, and so the tools for 3D parallax have come along so much in the last few years that you can do just some amazing stuff.
Yeah, some of those graphics were terrifying, and some of them, like, you know, there was like, oh, okay, yeah, that's kind of a cue from Harry Potter, this like very haggard looking giant, and some of them were, especially the South American ones, those ones that were like half snake, those were quite, you know.
Yeah, and again, you're this because you're a producer. There's never going to be a project that if you could go back and change something that you're going to see things that are going to bug you the rest of your life on a project, you know. We definitely have, you know, some of those. But my point is that we went down the road of we had to start somewhere, and the starting point for us was in Israel. It was in the Golan Heights, and Doug Van Dorn has done amazing, unbelievable research on Serpentine Mounds. And one of the biggest megalithic, I don't want to say attractions, because honestly it's been underexplored, but one of the most amazing megalithic sites of northern Israel is right there in the Golan Heights. And again, I don't want to make any assumptions here, but I'm going to assume, if you know, that our audience has turned out knows a little bit about the whole story of the Nephilim, but the story of the Watchers descending on Earth really happens in Mount Hermon, which is Hermon. Which is
Nebo, right?
Which is in north.
Mount Nebo is the actual, like, what they call it today, or is it?
Well, no, it's still Hermon. It's Mount Hermon, and it's up in the.
Oh, so that's right. It's in the Golan Heights, isn't it?
Yeah, it's up in the northwestern portion. It's kind of like the divider between Lebanon and Israel, but in basically just about in the shadow of Mount Hermon is the land of Bashan, the flats, the Straits of Bashan, and there is an amazing structure wheel of thousands and thousands of pounds, tons of stones of basalt stones in concentric circles, you know, or not concentric circles. It's a circular. It's a wheel. They call it the Wheel of Giants, and it's agreed upon that it was a tomb at one point. The center chamber is very, very much a tomb, and so it's been something that has fascinated people for, you know, generations. Even though, like I said, it's been very understudied and underexplored. But what was really cool is Doug Van Dorn, I don't want to say by accident, because it wasn't by accident. He was looking for something, and he just happened to study the Google Maps of the area, and he noticed a formation a quarter of a mile, if that, from the actual Wheel of Giants. By the way, that's what they call it. It's called the Wheel of Giants. But he noticed a serpentine formation, and he called, I want to say he called Judd Burton, who's an archaeologist, and I could be telling this wrong, but he called somebody and he said, "What are you seeing here? Do you see this?" And he said, "This is a serpentine formation." And so nobody had noticed that before. I mean, nobody. And so it's been attributed, accredited to him. Well, when you go to the place, it is in fact a serpentine shaped mound, and it's not naturally occurring because this place is flatter than a pancake, man.
Yeah.
I mean, just flat from there all the way to Mount Hermon. It's flat, and you've got this serpentine formation in the middle of nowhere. So he's done all kinds of research on that. It's just unbelievable, and the things that he has found, not only there in Bashan, but also in other parts around the world. He has discovered similarities of serpentine mounds that are built alongside some kind of a wheel formation, and that's not out yet, by the way. So I can't talk too much on that. But his insight to that was just unbelievable. So we went out there, we took the expedition out there, and we actually, man, we got all the way inside of the tomb. The dimensions of the tomb are more than adequate for being the Bible describes the death of Og, King Og.
That's what I was going to ask, if that's because I believe that's what they speculate, that was Og's burial place.
Very well could have been. And what's interesting is in Israel and in the region in general, they practiced, even to the time of Jesus, they practiced something called excarnation or decarnation, where they would basically use a tomb. They put the body, as soon as the body was deceased, they would cover it with rocks and whatnot, like Lazarus,
Mm-hmm.
and then they would come back later when the flesh had rotted off.
Yeah, it was just, you're just bones, and we come back, get your bones, and that's what we put in the box. And
exactly. So
yeah, you rented tombs. Tombs were you were in the tomb for like a year, and then your bones went into I can't remember the word for it.
They were loculi. They would use ossuaries. They'd put the bones in, and they would stick them in a what they call loculis, which are like little lockers inside the tombs.
Yeah.
And so, but the Jews specifically used it because of the purity laws. The laws of not being contaminated and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But the practice of that was not exclusively just Jews. So the question is, was this something that maybe was used, built for this giant, as the Bible says that he was, or was it already there? It's a huge mystery. Nobody knows. But the body, the size of the actual chamber, is the 16 cubits that the Bible talks about King Og being. So,
yep.
And he killed him in the area. He killed him in the land of Bashan. So it's very, very, very likely that could have been the case. And if that is the case, that serpentine mound is absolutely a burial place. So if they were practicing decarnation.
Oop, hold up. It's getting locked up. Come on, Zoom.
There are definitely...
We lost you there for a second. It said, if they were practicing decarnation, was the last thing you said that came through?
No, I said, if that was in fact what they were doing there, if they let him rot there and then moved his bones, then there is a very good likelihood that that the body of Og could be somewhere in that serpentine mound,
Whoa.
Yeah.
Which,
yeah.
I mean, who knows how many of those bones would actually still be intact at this point, but you
right.
never
No,
know.
of course. No, absolutely. Who knows? but that could have been the actual burial place. So anyway, so that's, we did that. We had to go and get a little bit of footage at the site where David fought Goliath, because Goliath was actually a Nephilim, he was a Rephaim.
Yep.
And
his brothers.
And his brothers. So it just, again, when you look at it in the documentary, we went out to that place, and it just brings the whole story to life. The commentary becomes different when you see it through the eyes of not just two groups of maniacs trying to kill each other, but when you look at it through the lens of this race that was intent on destroying humanity,
well,
on
yeah,
destroying, knocking off God's perfect plan of sending the Messiah through the blood of through the lineage of King David.
Yeah, and that kind of answers my question. But like, why is this important? I want to ask you this. Like, why did you, the company, feel like that's important? Like, why did? Because, like you said, most believers, they're like, Nephilim. If they have a King James, Nephilim, that's a weird word. But boom, keep going. Why is it important for us to know this? Why is this, and especially why are so many people, you believe? I was have a conversation with a young man who's Evan DiDio. His father's Bishop Alan DiDio with Encounter Ministries, an exploding ministry online, and they're starting to run into people and they're starting to talk about it more. They're getting interested. And why are so many people getting interested in this now? Like, and why is it important for a Christian specifically? Why does it matter?
Okay, we're about to shift gears here, man. So the entire I feel like I should go kind of give a narrative, kind of the speed reader's tour of the whole Nephilim thing. Basically, in the Garden of Eden, when humanity fell, when we disobeyed and went and did what we weren't supposed to do, God pronounced declared a war. Basically, He pronounced He made enemies out of the serpent, who was the tempter, and the woman, who was the one who fell prey to the temptation, right? And He said that the serpent would bruise her heel, but she would crush his head, right? And so
I'm pulling it up in the King James. It's
read it for me, if you would.
Genesis chapter 3 verse 15. And I will put enmity between thee and the woman, and between thy seed and her seed. And this is what
that's right.
That's what Tom Horn, that's what Gary Stearman and Chuck Missler, there's two seeds in that verse. And once again, most Christians, we just kind of speed bump over that.
That's right.
Go ahead.
So this seed, which would eventually be the seed of redemption, which would be Christ, would be Jesus, was going to be the one who destroyed, who crushed the seed of the serpent. And so the serpent immediately goes to work on this plan to derail those plans. And so in a very convoluted and complex plan, basically ends up tempting these angels that had free will in heaven, entices them with lust towards the women of earth, who were very beautiful. The Bible says the beautiful daughters of men. And so these angels that had free will made a pact to basically leave their heavenly posts, give up what they had, to go and take these women, these human women. And so that's exactly what they did.
That's not now Rudy. Now that's I'm being the anti guy. I got to do the other side of this. Well, that's not in the Bible, Rudy. Where are you getting that information from?
Well, I mean, it's, first of all, yes, it is in the Bible.
Thank you, Chuck Missler, for that answer. That is a very Chuck Missler answer.
It is.
But please expound. Please expand on that.
The arguments against the whole the daughters of men being the daughters of Seth.
The daughters of Adam. The daughters of Adam.
Yeah, that just doesn't hold water. There's no reason. There's no credible reason. No, that can't really be defended. But when you look at the timeline and you see things that happen later on, and I'm talking about later on in the New Testament, there is reason to find corroborating evidence that the angels were capable of such things. The Apostle Paul tells the women in the church to not tempt the angels. Why would he say that? If that's not possible. So yeah, that's more than been argued. And there's still people that are not going to believe it, But Go ahead. Sorry.
No, I was going to say, that's Chuck Missler really pounds that, and I think my only regret in watching the film is that he wasn't alive, because I know you would have interviewed him.
Oh, absolutely.
Because he was one of these that's been championing this, teaching it to churches when it was not popular, and it's still not popular, but it's becoming a niche genre of people just.
Oh, definitely.
But he talked about like that sons of Adam versus the sons of, and he said that was what the early church taught, as we know, because the Ethiopian Bible still has Enoch 1 anyway, in the text.
Well, that's another big thing. That's another big thing. A lot of what we know about the story of the Watchers and the Nephilim has come to us because, again, the speed bump verse on in Genesis doesn't really tell us a lot. And as soon as we're past that, man, we're on to other stuff, that's jumping over hundreds of years, So a lot of the details about the story of the Watchers and the Nephilim come from the book of Enoch, or the books of Enoch, I should say.
Yeah.
Well, that brings up a problem because as we were talking before, you have these guys from the Giza seminar who, they talk about the gospel of Mary Magdalene and the gospel of Philip and the gospel of this and that and the other, the gospel of GabrielBello, So
Cactus beat me to it. He beat me to it. He said, I was going to say Augustine was the first one to introduce that. He did a lot to fight some heresies, but he introduced a couple of things that, you beat me to it, Cactus.
So with good reason, we need to have our antennas up and have our guard up against the things that we read and that we take as gospel truth, literally, but the interesting thing about the Book of Enoch is that the Book of Enoch does not contradict, is not at odds with fundamental Christianity.
Nope, no, not at all.
In fact, the Book of Jude mentions, and the Book of Jude is like verses, like 20. I want to say 26 verses or something like that.
And half of it is Enoch.
Exactly, absolutely. It's mentioned throughout the Bible several times. So. A lot of people get there, they get like apprehensive. Oh, the Book of Enoch. Don't talk about the Book of Enoch. But the Book of Enoch,
that's not apocrypha nonsense. That's Catholic stuff. We don't read that stuff. That's not in the King James, brother. No. It's not what Jesus preached out of in the 1612.
But what's really interesting, very, very interesting, is that not only do we have the Bible quoting the Book of Enoch a lot, they found a piece of the scroll of the Book of Enoch that matches up perfectly.
And where did they happen to find that? Where did they find that, Rudy?
They found it in Qumran, the site of the Dead Sea Scrolls. So it's very credible. So again, a lot of what we hear, a lot of what we know about the story of the Watchers comes from the Book of Enoch, and it is to be believed. Now again, like I've said, there are people that are not going to believe no matter what. They're not going to accept it, and that's okay. You know what? To be honest with you, if I can throw this in real quick.
Throw it.
That was one of the things that I felt good about. That I felt almost a sense of relief about when it came to this project. With Apocalypses, I felt to a certain degree that there was a level of liability, maybe a little bit.
Well, people love to argue about the rapture,
right?
In the end times, everybody's got their own theory.
But the thing about the rapture and the end times and all that stuff, there are direct implications to people's salvation, and so there is the extra added level of pressure to get certain things right, and make sure that what people are hearing is sound doctrine,
Yes.
With the project on the Nephilim, so much of it is in fact speculation. There's no anybody who says otherwise is crazy. There is a lot of deducing that you have to do, with good signposts, with good reasons to deduce, but you still have to deduce. You can't. It's not all. Even with the Book of Enoch, you're still, you're saying, well, if that happened, that overlaps with this or that, or that's proven by that.
Yeah.
And so, but for me, the whole thread this whole time has been, as long as it's causing people to study, and research and read and whatnot, you're accomplishing something good. I don't feel that sense of liability, and it's not it's definitely not something that you want to get in arguments over, man, or fights or whatever. And it's not that kind of subject matter, you know.
Yeah.
It's there is a world of research yet to be done on it, and a lot of really exciting things to be found, you know.
100%.
So yeah. So anyways, gosh, there's so much to talk about, you know, when it comes to that. But again, the original question, to your original question, the reason it's important is because that battle, that war of the seeds, the serpent, the dragon, the devil, whatever, but same guy by different names, as Marzulli says, he devised a plan to try to cut off that bloodline. He knew that if there was a corruption of the bloodline in that you know, the what would eventually be the seed of the woman,
the Messiah can't come.
Messiah would never come from tainted demonic blood. So that was his plan, was to get these fallen angels to basically infect or corrupt the genome, you know. And man, as Marzulli says, he came close. He came down to 6 people.
Yep.
You know, and then God decided to destroy the world and start all over. It wasn't just, there were reasons for that. It wasn't God just being like, oh, I've had it with you guys. I mean, yeah, he did have it. You know, he had it, but there was a very practical reason. You know, he wanted to save that lineage. He had to. You know, and so you know, the flood destroys mankind. That, you know, it starts all over, and then there's another incursion of more watchers into the earth.
Which that's the one that we have to. There is nothing but speculation, because it just says in Noah's days and after. That's all you get.
That's right.
All you get.
That's right.
Enoch was gone, and the Bible, that doesn't tell you anything else.
But what's really cool, man, is that you've got guys that have studied it so much that some of the things that they offer, some of the explanations that they offer, are just amazing. Gary Wayne, for example.
Oh yeah, we're very familiar with Gary Wayne over here.
Yep. His take on it is that the second incursion happened at the tower. I'm sorry, not the Tower of Babel, in Sodom and Gomorrah. You know.
Well, I mean, I would even say with Babel is possibility, because it said that Nimrod became a Gibberim. So how did he go from being a man to a mighty one? Which Gibberim, it's not mighty one, it's that same thing. So he did something. They were playing with...
There were definitely opportunities, you know. And the thing is, the Tower of Babel itself, unlike what people say or think, that, you know, these dummies were trying to build a tower so they could climb up to heaven. It wasn't that. These guys were trying to open portals to the spiritual realm.
Yes.
To be able to illegally cross back and forth.
CERN.
Exactly. So there were opportunities. There were opportunities that were created for that to happen. Absolutely. And so there's another incursion, and then that's, you know, we end up with guys like Og. You know, we end up with with the Rephaim. And man, you know, another thing that Gary Wayne says is that all the ites, the Hittites,
nearly every one of those tribes that is mentioned, where, you know, God tells Joshua, wipe, he pulled an Emperor Palpatine, wipe them out.
Yeah, it wasn't. That's the thing. When you read that in that context, and you see that all these tribes that had Nephilim blood in them, now you understand why God was telling the Israelites when they were taking the promised land, extinguish them, exterminate them, kill everything, every single one of them, because as long as they didn't, that blood, that I don't want to say it posed a threat to the eventual birth of the Messiah, because it didn't pose a threat. God was going to win regardless. But from a human standpoint, it very much posed a threat, you know, from a logistical standpoint, if you will. So that, to me, that I thought that was really cool. That's a you know, a lot of times, especially the non-believers would say, you know, well, why would a loving God allow that to happen? You know, what would he do? Why would he send them to kill children and this and that and the other? Well, when you look at it through the lens of scripture in that sense, then it makes a lot more sense.
Oh yeah, I'm sure Jonathan will talk to you about that when you go on the Goslings and I don't know when your interview is. Otherwise, I would plug it. But we got Goslings, folks in here, especially Caps and Cactus. So y'all, Rudy's gonna be on their channel here soon, and they're gonna go. This is like the intro for those that don't know Rudy, and then when you go over there, you get to go the deep dive because they might talk music for like 5 minutes, and then it's gonna be like, okay, man, where did you go? What did you do? Where did you see? Which we've got some B-roll, so we can look at that. Or I do want to get to the thing about that shaman. So where was it?
Yeah.
There's one thing I want to talk about before that,
Yep.
especially because we're talking about the seed. Where was it that you went in? Was it Cairo? Where was it in Egypt that you went underground into like that crypt, and it had the gospel? It had that story from Genesis written in Egyptian hieroglyphics.
Yeah, it was in the Valley of the Kings. It was in the Valley of the Kings in a very deep tomb. We climbed probably about 4 or 5 stories underground to get to this tomb. And what's really cool
Say
is
that again.
say
that one more time. How many? 4 or 5 stories underground?
Easily, man. I'll tell you what. And I'm not trying to be the Department of Tourism for Egypt here, but for anybody who's into these studies and this kind of thing, you just see it differently, man. Just the pyramids. And I don't, I'm sure there are people here who have been to the pyramids and like, yeah, they're cool, but man, it's not until you see them up close
you realize how big they are.
What a big undertaking it was. And it's not what they have sold us, that it was, just, back labor and just.
It wasn't Hebrew slaves, man. It was Mexicans.
You said it. You said that, not me.
Hey, we both can say it. We have the Hispanic race card.
Okay,
we can say everything short of the N word, and I should be able to say it because I have like a third. I'm a third black.
Stop it.
I'm sorry.
I saw a guy doing a comedy sketch that said you know how good Mexicans are at building things. He said we have these pyramids in Egypt, and everybody says there's.
I said that to
aliens. That was aliens. Was that you that sent me that?
Yeah, it was me.
And he said, in Mexico they have pyramids. Nobody questions.
Yeah, it was Andrew Schultz. It was Andrew Schultz, and it was great. It was absolutely great. It's like, they go to was it Hebrew slaves? Was it this? They go to Mexico, but like, well, ain't no question, man. The Mexicans did it.
That's right. Yeah.
Anyway, so
you're gonna get me in trouble, man.
Oh no, I'm not. Oh, Jonathan's loving it. Hey, man, everybody loves ethnic humor. We shouldn't even call it racist. It's just ethnic humor. That's all it is. So you're 4, 5 stories underground.
Yeah,
underground, dude.
What's amazing is when you get to the area of the Valley of the Kings, there is an actual 3D rendering of the entire complex.
Wow.
Man, you've seen those. You've seen the 3D modeling of the ant colonies underground, right?
Yeah.
With all the passages that go. That's what it looks like, man. It's unbelievable the amount of digging these guys did, and it was, and to be honest with you, that was manual labor. That was men that did that.
Yeah. Manual labor.
Not Manuel.
Not Manuel. Not Manuel. Not Manuel labor.
That's right. But no, these. You get me in trouble.
Hey, mira, papi. Vamos. So it was Manuel. It was Manuel labor.
It was Egyptians. Let's just say that. So no, it's amazing. It's unbelievable. So anyway, yeah, you climb down about 4 or 5 stories underground, and one of these, it's not a tomb. It's almost like a gallery. And what's amazing, man, is the places that are closer to the surface. The majority of the things that were found, in the 18th and 19th century, the color had worn off of them completely. But these places that are super, super deep, they're still, man, the colors are still as bright as the day they were painted. It's really.
If you hadn't said it was underground, it looked like it was in a museum preserved. I mean,
absolutely,
it just looked like
incredible.
And I'm sure, and that's through the camera, through a screen, and it wasn't even the final color, the final version, the nice and pretty 4K version of the film.
It looks like it was painted yesterday. It's been I mean, they've done a great job of preserving it, and I'm sure they've, I mean, they haven't recolored it, but I'm sure they've, lacquered it or whatever they do to preserve it, as they should. But what's really cool is, that specific place, you have this this depiction of their god Horus cutting the tree of life, or trying to kill the tree of life. And yeah, exactly what's written in Genesis that you read to us a minute ago is written right there in hieroglyphics on the wall.
So repeat that, because I want to make sure that people get this, and I'm going to try to make sure I clip this out of this conversation. So you go 4 or 5 stories underneath. How old is this? Or are they saying that how old is this thing that you're looking at? These
3,500 years old, 4,000 years old, man. I mean, we're talking about a long time ago.
When was the Torah written? When did the Hebrews get out of jail?
So we're dating about 2,000 years back to the death of Jesus, 1,500 years before that. So I'm thinking about 1,500 years before Jesus. So to be honest with you, man, it probably would have been kind of possibly contemporary to that.
Yeah, contemporaneous.
Yeah, exactly. And so the fact that narrative was known throughout the land is speaks volumes.
That's crazy. So there's Genesis 3:15, and what was crazy, y'all. So I got to see this film because I was the music supervisor. Was my
See, this is where it's my turn to interview you.
Oh, there you go.
I'm taking over.
I should switch the screens up and be like, shoop, shoop.
Yeah, so for those who don't know, Gabriel wrote the original score for the film.
For the intro. And a couple
for the intro,
pieces.
Right, correct. But you also were the music supervisor for the entirety of the rest of the film. So
fun.
It was really cool to get to work with you, and you hit a home run, man. An absolute home run.
Well, when you told me you were working on this film, I was like, dude, please. It was very much like Samuel L. Jackson with George Lucas in Star Wars. He's like, I will be a stick in the background just so I can say I was in Star Wars. And I was like, you're doing a movie on Nephilim and Giants, or Nephilim and Angels. I've been studying this since 2011.
And how long did it take you to convince me?
I think, your concern was like, no, but we don't have a budget for music. I was like, I don't care.
Well,
I don't care about your budget,
the thing is, we did have an allocated budget, but we had an amazing music library, but I wanted something proprietary. I wanted something original, So when you said that to me, it was like music to my ears,
Pun intended.
I was like, let's talk.
Yeah, and the rest is history, which I can't. Yep. So yeah, and the cool thing is, I actually named the piece. So it's called Angels and Giants, and there's movements where it's called like the seed of man, and the seed of the serpent, and the seed of the woman. So it's like 3 different. Yes, I got the purple lightsaber, brother. I got it.
Okay, all right. So in me interviewing you now, right? I'm curious because it's a fantastic theme. It's everybody who hears it's like really blown away by it. What was your approach to writing that? I'm curious.
Honestly, man, it was just the imagery. So it was very. I mean, you start off. It opens up. So just to give you all, describe the film, and I wish I had the vocabulary that Jonathan has. Jonathan, as a writer, is brilliant of painting a landscape with words. So I'm going to do my best, Jonathan. I paint the story with music. You paint it with words, but it opens up with the pyramids, and you're out there in the Egyptian desert. So it's very just open and loose. But I tell you what, man, by the time it got to that seed of the serpent, it's epic creepiness. It is probably the most creepy, epic piece of music I've ever written, because you have a human, like a quarter of a human face like this, and there you see it's a reptilian. It's really like a reptilian, like an alien reptilian, a human with scales, brown and yellow scales, and a vertical iris eye. And I was like, man, and the whole thing just connects. Everything moves, the movements, everything connects. But there's time movements, there's all those changes but it's just basically trying to put into music what you're looking at. So when you're seeing something, what does that image sound like? That was.
Well, it was. I mean, you nailed it, man. You absolutely nailed it. It was everybody who hears it just comments on that. And I've had people tell me that's library music. I'm like, no, that's not library music.
That's original. It fits so perfectly. How did he do that? I have a great music supervisor. He said, "I'm just going to
broke up. Say that again."
I said, he said, how did that fit so well? Oh, well, I have a great music supervisor. He said, "There's nothing here, so I'm just going to write something."
Absolutely.
But yeah, it was the.
No, you did. You really did. You did a great job, man. Absolutely.
Thank you, brother. I appreciate it.
And not only the end product, but the process was really cool. Being able to get together and talk over it and talk through it and correspond back and forth and I love it. And yeah, you did an amazing job with the original music part, just amazing. But the music supervision in general, man, because I know you spent a lot of time in just picking the right music for the right place.
Yeah, I think your favorite was was it Peru, the snake wall?
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. The piano piece, that was amazing. Yeah. Well, and not only that, but I think we used several of your original pieces. It wasn't just the opening.
No, there was at least one other one that I remember. And
I thought it was more. I wanted to say 2 or 3, but you might be right.
Maybe. I know there was one specifically. It was this world piece of music that I think I submitted to Digital Juice, and I don't know if they are co-publishers on it or if I never let them have it. But yeah, it's a really cool piece of music that I was like, man, this is what I have, all these pieces of music that would work perfect for this film. And if this is the only film I do, which I hope it isn't, but if it is,
well, and I think that's that's one of the things that I love about my job is the ability to be able to indulge yourself into the creative process. And that's one of the reasons why I like doing this at 2-3 in the morning sometimes. I had there was this one particular scene or this one particular montage in Peru where we're in Ollantaytambo, and I had a very Andean type of a music bed, and I thought, man, I really want a pan flute here. And I just happened to have a pan flute. So, brother,
we had a whole pan flute conversation too.
We did. We totally did. And so I'm about to possibly embarrass myself here, but I don't care. I'm going to embarrass myself. I recorded that pan flute line into my iPhone. And I dropped it in, and I put a little bit of reverb on it,
and that's all you needed. I love, dude.
With a stinking iPhone, it works.
Is it in your office?
The pamphlet? No, I have it at home.
See, and once again, we're back to the musician Rudy, because he plays guitar, he plays harmonica, he plays pan flute because he's South American and he can.
There you go.
It's in the genes.
The pan flute is in my blood.
All right, so now since we're there, we're in Peru now. We're talking about that.
Yeah.
And this is, I mean, without, well, I don't know if, I don't want to spoil anything in the movie, but I don't think even in talking about this, you can spoil. I texted Rudy when I was editing this part, and I said, I didn't put any music because his only thing was, he's like, man, just make sure you don't go crazy with the music. And I'm like, no, man, I've watched documentaries. If you have music going the whole time, it's distracting. It actually pisses me off as a musician because I can't pay attention to what they're saying. So he's like, okay, good. You get it. And when this guy was talking, so they interviewed this shaman, and you can tell, like, I was sitting up here, like, I was praying in the spirit because I'm like, there's something coming through this conversation. Like, this guy is spiritually charged, and this is some funky juju on this. Like, I mean, like, what in the world was it like? Like, talk about this guy, sit in the room with this guy.
Well, I'll tell you, man, that whole thing was one of those things that kind of providentially came together. I mean, it really is really mind blowing how that happened. I could get into the minutiae of how it happened, but just suffice it to say that this guy got dropped in our laps. And when I say got dropped in our laps, it was literally the Airbnb owner. I asked him if, I didn't feel that we had enough cultural content at the time. When we were already there, I'm sorry, I take it back. As we were about to leave here, I called him because these Airbnb people in Latin America are like, anything that you need, we'll gladly help you. We'll gladly help you.
Oh yeah.
So I called him and I said, hey, the one thing that I wish I had more lined up for our stay in Cusco is more cultural type of stuff, And he said, you need to talk to my sister. And I said, what does your sister do? And he says, she does sacred architecture. So goofy me thinks sacred architecture. I'm thinking, she's into like construction of temples and stuff.
Yeah.
No. Sacred architecture is spiritual, And so he says that she knows the last real practicing Inca priest in Peru, And so so of course that interested me, and there was this issue of, are we going to be able to interview him or not or whatever. It just so happened his sister was flying back into town from the UK on that day.
Wow.
On the day that we were going to be there. And so we didn't hear back from her, and it was I was bummed because I really wanted this interview, just more than anything else, man, because I wanted to get the insight of the Inca, and they in their culture, in their religion, in their religious beliefs, they have these beings that they call guardians, right? And so when you really take a deep dive into it spiritually, these guardians are basically the watchers, they're demonic forces in the demonic realm. So I really wanted to have that conversation with him because I suspected what he was going to say, very, very much suspected what he was going to say. Well, when we had kind of given up on the guy, we're literally on our way home, on our way back to the hotel to call it a night or call it a day. And I get a call from his sister, hey, Nicholas is waiting for you guys, so I had to break the news to the guys, and they were not not thrilled,
Put it
they
all
were
back
troopers,
together,
man. They
guys.
hung in there.
Get back in that mindset.
What's that? Say it again.
I said, you had to get back in that mindset because you're like, okay, we're gonna go home and take the shoes off. And
Totally, yeah. So we met him in a very seedy part of town, and man, he invited us to his house, and he was just very, very hospitable, very a relatively young guy. I mean, you think a lost shaman Inca priest, and you think a guy in his 80s or something, but no, this guy was probably in his late 40s, early 50s, maybe.
He looked young. He looked in his 30s, to be honest with you, on film.
Yeah.
But brown don't frown, so.
Exactly. So so he brought us into his home, man, and he pretty much, as we walked in, the sister of the Airbnb guy was the official translator because he spoke in Quechua, and she said, when you ask him the questions, if he answers, when you ask him the questions, he's going to ask the guardians if he's allowed to answer them or not. And if he answers them,
the juju
then
was coming through. I'm telling you.
So we walk into to his place, and as we're walking in, he gives each of us a coca leaf, puts it in our hands, right? And then he makes this kind of declaration over the coca leaves that this is the conduit of this, that, or the other. And I'm like, I rebuke that in Jesus' name. This isn't the conduit for nothing, So it was kind of funny, kind of amusing, but it was kind of spooky, honestly, Now I will say this, in the interest of full disclosure, he was a super nice guy, man.
Oh,
he was a
beautiful
gentleman.
Yeah.
An absolute gentleman, just a guy who's practicing his religion, and so it was an amazing experience, and he was pretty much open to any question that we wanted to ask him, and you will see it in the film. It was a very, very special time, and I think all the crew guys, for them it was an amazing experience as well.
Yeah, I'll tell y'all when you watch this film, it's that conversation is worth and there's so much in that film, but that conversation is worth the price of admission because
very, very eye-opening, man.
It's real, and it's funny because you have Satanists that deny, oh, we don't worship Satan. It's just a figure, and it's like, oh no, they do. They absolutely do. I mean, you're not gonna take on, like, the religion has his name, but then you have people around the world that commune with these beings, and it's not like us praying and we go to the Word and we don't ever hear an answer. These things appear. I mean, yeah, it's.
Well, what's amazing, man, is you start seeing one thing that was really cool is that you start seeing congruency between the different cultures and the different religions and the different practices, that they all have stories of these star people, right? They all have stories of giants. They all have stories that in one way or another have congruency to them. They work together, and they all date to around the same, give or take, interpretation a little bit, but they all kind of date to about the same time. They all have a common story of a cataclysm that destroyed the world. And then on top of that, we have Dr. Alexa Brennan, who was the New Age, the ex-New Ager, and in her field of work, she has to be anonymous because she does work for the federal government, and it would put her life in danger if she was seen talking, recognized on television. But she says how in the world of New Age, she says the way she describes it is if there was such a thing in the world of New Age, she would have been a high priestess. And I have spoken to her at length, and trust me when I tell you, she knows her stuff. So in the world of New Age, there is the similar equivalent to the Guardians, to the Apus, to the Watchers. So you start seeing that the same thing is happening in the spiritual realm, with different names for different people, but it's very much the same thing,
100%. Okay, couple more things, and then we'll let everybody go. I know everybody's riveting, but they're gonna get to see you on the Goslings on July 9th, I think. So in about a month, and of course they're gonna see you more here, especially when By Faith Studio is done, and we can get you over here making some music so people can see. Oh yeah, he is a good, Indiana Jones can't, wait, Indiana Juans, I can't. Mira, Indiana Juans, can you come play the guitar for me?
Indiana Juans is a TV producer, not an archaeologist. That's the thing. That's the one thing that I always try to. That's the thing that's special for me about my job, man. I represent the viewer. I had to sit here and immerse myself into. Look, man, we all have. I'm sure you have saxophone players that you admire, guys that are way cooler than anybody I could, even think about. We all have the people that we aspire to. I don't want to say be like necessarily, but you admire what they do, their process.
Oh yeah.
For me,
absolutely.
For me, the guys that I look up to as producers in the big time are, for me specifically, is a guy like Oliver Stone. I could not be more different in my worldviews from that guy. I mean, literally polar opposites. But man, I admire the heck of the way he does his work, because he immerses himself in the content until he's able to talk about it. Not like he knows it all.
No, he doesn't. Yeah, not at all.
But he's able to ask the right question. The way he immersed himself in everything from JFK to, believe it or not, Any Given Sunday, just being able to have a true insider's view. And so when you were able to do that and immerse yourself into that, and then be able to go to the guys who do study it, to the academics, to the guys who are the authors, the guys that have devoted their whole life to researching, then I can ask the right questions, the relevant questions, put together a story that the viewer is going to get something out of, not necessarily the same rehashed narrative, but try to find the nuggets, try to find something that's a little bit different in each one of them. So I feel that the guys, that the experts that spoke to us every single one of them did that, man. I am beyond blessed and thankful for all of them, and especially from a personal standpoint in the production sense to Doug Van Dorn, because he's just not only has he just been an amazing consultant in research, but just he's become a very, very dear brother and a really, really good friend. So, but I'm just blessed by everybody who participated. Everybody who had a role in it was just unbelievable. And while I'm on the subject, if I can go with my run-on sentence for 10 more seconds, my crew here and abroad, we had the international crew that flew with us and stuff. But then my post-production crew here in South Carolina, where the studio is, just fantastic, making, wearing multiple hats and just, getting it all done. And my leadership for giving us having the patience and giving us the elbow room to do things without being micromanaged, without being stifled, and just the company in general. So I would be remiss if I didn't say that.
Yeah, you had a lot of hoops to jump through with
many.
The world shutting down and trying to travel the world through a pandemic.
Well, we had to create processes for that, man. It was I had my animator across town, and when they were, for the few weeks that it became Nazi Germany, you shall not touch, you shall not get around each other, But we had to create process to be able to do that, and tools like that we had hardly used before the pandemic, like Zoom, and for us specifically, Frame.io was vital to be able to collaborate from across town. So we were blessed to have the technology that we did at the time that we had it, because otherwise we would have been sunk. So but it was quite the experience to have a major documentary through a worldwide pandemic. So.
Yeah, big time. Well, before I ask you this last question, because I wanted to do it about the geometry, the worlds, and some of the cats in the comments might be hip to this, but some may not, and especially for the viewers that would be watching this later, I wanted to ask you about like the lining up of the megalithic structures around the world. But before we did that, is there anything from the B-roll you wanted to show people, or did you want me to? I didn't. I got to pull up the preview if you want me to show the trailer for the film.
Yeah, man. You know what I would actually say that might be the best thing to do is to show the trailer. I think it. We've been talking about it and stuff. It'd be cool for them to.
And I still have that alien that was found in Peru. The one
do you have it? Do you need me to resend it to you?
Where is that? Yeah, I don't have it pulled up. I have all these things we were talking about earlier today. I have Ellie Marzulli's film over here.
Give me 1 second. I don't know if it's going to make me disappear or not, but are you seeing my screen right now or no?
No. You're still there.
Okay, good. Hang on, give me 1 second. I'm going to try to find it and send it for you. Yeah, because I feel like if we show them the trailer, it's going to bring to life a lot of the stuff that we're talking about.
Did you email it or did you send it in the chat? Did you email it or did you send it in the chat?
I can. Would you rather I send it in the chat?
No. If you emailed, that's fine. I just need to know where to look for it.
Gotcha. I'll send it to you in the chat if I can, if it'll let me. Which I think we did earlier. Okay, here we go. If the bandwidth doesn't die on me here.
It should just be the link, right?
Yeah. Well, I need to send you the actual.
Oh wait,
I want to make sure
it's in the Facebook Watchers group, right?
Oh yeah.
Hold up. Let me just pull it up there.
Okay.
So when does this? So this comes out when? And I'm going to put the link in the description. Tell me when. Tell us when it comes out, and how people can watch it. Man, that was cool, dude. That thing about the Giants that you posted the other day, and that. And I'm actually going to put a link to this group, y'all. If you all are on Facebook, join this group. The Rudy runs this group. It's called the Watchers, Nephilim, and Quality Coffee. And
that's right.
We're not super duper active, so you're not going to get like 1,500 things a day. But the things that we share,
but everybody can contribute if it's for the aficionados of the genre.
It says we can't find that page.
What's that?
It says we can't find that page.
Are you kidding me? Give me 1 second. That can't be right. Here it is. I got it right here. I will send it to you right now.
There you go.
Okay, here we go. And as everybody holds their breath, here it is.
You emailed it or you put it up? There it is. There it is over there. It says sorry we couldn't find that page.
Are you kidding me?
No.
Okay, hang on.
Is it private? Privatized or something?
Try it one more. It's not private. It is not private. Guaranteed it's not private. I'm looking at it right now.
We appreciate everyone's patience. We promise it's going to be worth it.
Yeah,
if you haven't seen this.
Sorry, guys.
Yeah,
Let me try this one more time. One more time.
We got distracted earlier today, and we were looking at everything except for what we were supposed to be looking at. There it is. Okay, let's go to
We'll
do the try screen. Yeah, we'll do the try screen. So now
Okay.
I'm just separating it so everybody can see it. So actually, I'm gonna put it over here, and I'm just gonna put it on the right screen. Y'all, I'm sorry. I'm like completely. There it is. That's the one I was looking for. Okay, here we go.
There are stories in the Americas. Most tribes from New Hampshire over to California talk about 6 fingers, red-haired giants that were 9, 10, 12 feet tall.
There's over 500 tribes just in the United States alone. One thing that is prevalent in all the stories is stories of giants.
The Shoshone, the Bannock, and the Paiute Indians all got together and formed one army. Chased about 60 giants into the cave down at Lovelock, and then they piled brush in front of the cave and they lit it on fire.
The Native Americans didn't have anything nice to say about the red-haired giants.
They were cannibalistic, they were sexually perverse, sadistic,
Bite your head off, drink all the blood out of your body.
and then throw the body down, like popping a top off a Coca-Cola.
My brother's 6'6", 6'7". This thing was a lot bigger than my brother.
We followed her downstairs into the basement, and then she opened this cabinet, and there were the bones.
You can see the face rock in front of us. That was the place where they hide the library, the books, the Dead Sea Scrolls, that among them we found the famous book of Enoch.
You have these beings who belong in the spiritual realm choosing to trespass and enter the natural realm in an illegal way.
Members of the divine realm were allowed to come through a portal from one dimension into our dimension.
You're at what they call Gilgal-Rephaim, which translates loosely as Wheel of the Giants. So the reason why all this matters is because Bashan, which also means the land of the serpent, was the place where the giant Og reigned during the days of Moses. And Og's name can mean circle, and we're sitting here in a pile of 42,000 tons of stone circles that there's no way you can appreciate it unless you're high up in the sky.
Early Israelites identified it as the work of giants. Therefore, it seems sufficient to say that in its ancient context, Circle of the Giants is a better translation of Gilgal-Rephaim.
I'm not like this, and I'm soaking up this energy. There's a very special energy here.
Could some of these wonders be the metaphorical handprints of the giants spoken of in Genesis?
You are able to access the different spiritual realms through the manipulation of energy. And so the belief is that you're doing so by increasing the vibration in your different energy bodies.
This is Plaza de Armas in Cusco, Peru. This is the region where the strongest evidence for the presence of the Watchers and the Nephilim on Earth can be found.
And this is probably the largest megalithic wall in the world. The Inca found this site, so they decided to build here. When the Spanish first arrived, they were completely blown away. And they said, "Did you build this?" And the Inca said, "No, this was here when we got here." This is the biggest, 125 tons.
Are you capable of meeting with The Watchers, the Guardians?
In our culture, from the 5th level of consciousness and higher, it is like having an afternoon meeting.
Rabbit ears on a cat figure, which represents the Son of God, Horus. And you have the Tree of Life with the snake, so it's one of the chaos creatures coming out or through the Tree of Life. What the Son of God is doing is he is crushing the head of the serpent and then slicing it off. What it says in the hieroglyphs above here, he will strike your heel, but you will crush his head. This pyramid is 2.3 million blocks, the smallest of which is 2.5 tons. The biggest ones, the bigger ones, are up to 15 tons.
These nodules we also saw in Peru. And how can there be nodules here and the same exact type of architecture literally halfway across the world in Peru? Very separate civilizations, same technology. Why?
And there you have it. I'm not hearing you.
I'm sitting here talking. I forgot to turn my microphone off so I wouldn't talk over it with my excited self. Yeah, man, you knocked it out of the park, y'all. Y'all
Thank you,
give
brother.
Rudy some applause in the comments. Give Rudy some love, because that is
blessed. Thank you so much, brother. Thank you for
tremendous amount of
showcasing it
work.
tonight. That's a
Yeah, tremendous
it
amount
was
of work.
definitely a lot of work, and a lot of people, a lot of people that really, like I said, wore multiple hats to pull it off. So I'm beyond humbled and thankful. So thank you, and thank you for showcasing it tonight,
Dude, 100%. So where's the link where we can buy this? I know you sent it to me in text, but what's the?
It is it's the Skywatch TV store.
Okay,
So,
Skywatch TV. And let's go to Home Skywatch TV, and let's go to the bookstore, audio
That's
and
right.
DVDs.
Yep, it says that it's the Skywatch. It's SkywatchTVStore.com. That's it. SkywatchTVStore.com, and it's
Yep.
the Angels and Giants Expedition Collection.
Oh, there it is, y'all. $35. There it is. So it's there on the screen.
And it's four 1 hour.
Yeah, it's 4
episodes.
hours, y'all. It's 4 hours. So y'all hit that link. I want everybody here can afford $35. Go buy it so that
Thank you, Chris.
Yeah, so you're ahead of the game when the Goslings interview. So I'm doing the pre-interview. The Goslings are going to do the post-interview. So, and I'm going to see if I can do like something with Nick and Jonathan where we can just watch it together like over a Zoom call or something, and it's going to take us a couple times to watch it because it's 4 hours. Yep. See, D's Daryl. You remember Daryl Oldham, right? D, big D
Absolutely.
producer.
It's Ilsonics, right?
That's Ilsonics.
What's up, Daryl? How are you, brother?
He's got it. He's got it in the cart. He's buying it right now.
My man.
So
My man.
When does it actually?
Thank you for the support. Seriously.
Oh yeah, is it available for purchase now?
It is available for purchase now.
Well, look at that. Okay, so it's already out. Okay, everybody.
The show, the product doesn't start officially getting promoted by them until the 4th of June, which is when the 4 episodes that we taped. That's the other thing too. We taped 4 episodes with Skywatch TV, so
it was
those will be dropping weekly.
It was you, Derek Gilbert,
Doug
Tom
Van Dorn.
Horn, Doug Van Dorn. I mean,
Tom Horn and Joe Horn.
That's right, his son.
Yeah.
Crazy. So I'm sure that'll be on YouTube, and I'm sure that'll be here on Skywatch TV. So
yep, for
y'all
sure.
support my brother over here because this is okay. Hold up on me to make sure that. Oh, good. I did hit the right button. I remember when you were going out. Yeah. Dee's talking about how he remembers when you were going out to shoot this when you were going to fly around.
Who's this?
Oh
yeah,
yep.
Daryl. Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah, definitely. And that's Alex Burgos. That's my girlfriend right there.
Hey. Oh, so who's George Watcher that's been in the comments?
Yeah, I was trying to figure that out too. Is that Joe Horn?
It says that was fun to film too. So was he like one of the crew guys or something? Because he had some comments up there earlier that I was like, is he working on this?
Oh, Doug. Oh, it's Doug. It's Van Dorn.
Oh.
That's awesome.
Holy cow.
That's awesome.
Hey.
Yeah, you have a VIP in the house, man.
Dude, hold up. We got to do
anything.
Where's the
Ask him something. That's right.
Mr. Van Dorn, I would love to have you if you're willing to do an interview on such a lowly. Oh, and Jew and Greek is here. See, now everybody it happens every time. You start doing the wrap up, and then everybody starts showing up. Ocean Crawler, did you tell him about my hat? Who's that? Who's Ocean Crawler or Ocean 4 Crawler? Rod Saunders actually he's got a growing channel on YouTube. Rod, you got to go back and watch that. You have to watch that trailer, Rod. It's amazing. Go up in the comments. Actually, I don't think I put a link to the trailer in there. This is the link to the trailer. So everybody go and share this. Y'all do me a favor real quick. If you got Facebook, go and share this right now before we out of here. Don't forget, just click on that and go share it to Facebook right now. In fact, I'm going to do this where you all can see me do it, right? So here we go. Let's go back to this screen. So there we go. Let's go on Gabe's Facebook for all the world to see. Because, nothing's private anyway. It's all the internet. They can see everything.
Who's Ocean Crawler?
I want to find. Yeah, I'm trying to figure that out. Let's see, and let's put a little comment in here, so because
reveal thyself, Ocean Crawler.
Watch it. Watch. Buy. Share. Support. And I tagged Rudy.
What happened?
I tagged you on it.
Oh, cool. Yeah,
and Mr. Van Dorn, if my brothers over there, Jonathan Goss, they've got literally an exploding YouTube channel from 600 to 6,000 plus subs, and a very dedicated audience of believers that are learning about this stuff. And D just sent me the receipt that he bought it. So D just bought his copy.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for your support, guys. Seriously.
So
thank you to everybody for their support.
Look at that. And Brandon stayed up past his bedtime the whole time. Dude, Brandon, you get, we got to give you something epic over here. We got to give you, let's see. Oh, here we go. 99999. And you're going to get a little,
And Corn Pop was a bad dude. And he ran a bunch of bad boys.
He's still up past 11?
Inconceivable! We hold these truths to be self-evident. All men and women created by you know the thing.
The thing, you know the thing.
All right, so
I figured out who Ocean Crawler is.
Who is it?
It's my son.
The mini Landa.
Yeah, well, I have a funny story to tell you. He mentioned his hat. So because this is a true son type of moment, smart aleck, monkey went up. I took him with me to Lovelock Cave out in Nevada, the big
That's
cave.
Right.
With the
yes, with the red-haired giants where they burned them up.
That's right. So we're out there, and man, it's out there. It's in the desert. It's in the middle of nowhere. So we stopped for a last minute, grab a drink, use a restroom type of thing, whatever. And I told him, hurry up, we got to go. We're late. So he takes his sweet time, and I'm like, what's taking him so long? He comes out with an Indiana Jones hat. I'm like, what are you doing, dude? We're late. We're like super late, And he says, well, it was on sale, So I'm like, get in the car. We got to go. So we get in the car. We go. We do the shoot and everything. Man, we get out there, and it is hot. I mean, I'm not joking. It's probably 115 degrees in the desert.
Oh, dude, I've been out to the Southwest, man. They have awnings in the parking lots because it'll set your car on fire. They'll explode. So hot out there.
It was bad, dude. So anyway, we did the interview with the couple that went out there with us, and I felt so bad for them because they were slightly older. So I sent them back to the car, and I said, "Here's the keys. Use the AC, whatever." And so it's my son and I, and we're just out there again. We're coming out. We're right. I want to say during the pandemic, still. So it's just the two of us. So he's carrying my tripod. I have the camera, and no big crew on this one. It's just the two of us. So I'm taking scenic shots. And dude, I'm burning up, and I'm like, holy cow, I'm going like this, and I hear him mumble under his breath, I bet you wish you had an Indiana Jones hat right now. I'm gonna throw you off this mountain, Indiana Jones.
And make another one that looks just like you.
Exactly. Yeah, it was fun. All kinds of stories from this.
Yeah, you'll have to recount some more of those stories for the Goslings. We don't want to take up all of the good content, but it was funny because, Brandon is up there. He's quoting Joe Biden, but it sounds like he's speaking in tongues. Sound like he finally became a charismatic like you and me. Brandon got the Holy Ghost. He's over there chewing it out of the pressure. Oh, actually, I do have that one. There it is.
True international effort to pressure.
There it is. The last thing. So, y'all hold on 1 second. Give me that thing, because that was one of the last things I remember in the film when I was adding music, and we actually got on the phone and talked about it. You were talking about those ratio pi had to do with how, like, you can take a line, drop it through Stonehenge, goes right through Giza, also goes like. Tell me some of that stuff that's just mind blowing, scientific. It's one of those things that boggles the minds of scientists.
Well, it's just the whole Giza plateau in and of itself. There's just so much mystery behind that. The entire Giza plateau, the way it's built, it's like an entire cosmic calendar, but not in the sense that not like the Mayan calendar or just the regular solar calendars. It's more in the ages, the cosmic ages. So it works. We get really, really deep into it in the film.
It's amazing.
I think if I'm remembering what you're talking about, it was the research of a guy by the name of Jacques Grimault. He's a Frenchman, and he is just unbelievably. I mean, I came across his research, and it just blew my mind. And what was really cool is I reached out to the guy saying, "Hey, man, I'd love to use some of your research for my film," expecting all this, red tape. And he was just the nicest guy, and he said, "Have at it, and just credit me." So happily obliged. But his research, if you could draw not a trench, but if you were to take and draw two lines between Easter Island and about 100 miles away from Easter Island, and you were to take a trajectory that goes through the planet, like over the planet, around the planet, and ends completely encircling the world and ends in Giza, right, in the Giza plateau. The amount of megalithic structures, the majority of the megalithic structures around the world are on this belt line. So if you go to places where you didn't even know there were megaliths, like in China, for example, you're gonna find China has pyramids. Who knew? Did you know that? Did you know China has pyramids? You probably do because you read up on this stuff.
Well, 12 years of unprofessional study.
Right, exactly. But a lot of people don't realize that there are literally
and they're all on that. They're on that line.
The vast
they're on that belt.
The vast majority are on that belt, and it encircles the planet completely around. So I'm kind of going off by memory because I haven't seen his research in almost a year now. But yeah, it's unbelievable. It's a book called The Revelation of the Pyramids, La Révélation des Pyramides, in French, as it were. So, but yeah, it's a great read, a really great read. He uncovers stuff that is just mind blowing. Some of it which we cover on the film. Jacques Grimault.
Jacques Grimault.
Yep.
Man, that is bonk. Memphis has a pyramid? Is that an Elvis joke? Or is that
what's that?
Rod Saunders of Jew and Greek. He says Memphis has a pyramid. Rod,
yes, Memphis does.
Rod, if you
Memphis does have a pyramid.
Is it a legit pyramid or is it like Elvis thing?
No, it's the I think it's the arena, isn't it? Isn't the arena where they do the Memphis? What's the Memphis basketball team? Anyway, I'm pretty sure that's the arena, right?
He's saying it's modern. I wasn't sure if he was being serious. I was like, man, I lived just a couple hours.
Yeah, no, it's just a construction.
Gotcha.
It's the arena.
Gotcha. It's like the one in Vegas,
Yep.
Luxor. That's the Luxor. That's what I was thinking of. Shoot, I had a thought, and then when he said that thing about the pyramid in Memphis, it threw me off a little bit. It's a Bass Pro Shop. Oh yeah, hey, before Rudy goes, does anybody in the comments have a quick question? Caps, Cactus, America, Rod, you're okay. It's okay, Rod. I'll allow it. You're allowed. You're my elder, so I must respect you, Brandon. Even though you could text Rudy anytime, but especially if, you know, those that do know Rudy that are in the comments, or if Brother Van Dorn is still in there, if you want to drop a comment of like what was the most fascinating place that you went to, and if he's already pieced out, then we'll just have to ask him that on when hopefully I'll be able to interview him over here. He said that you have his information, so I'll just get it from you when we wrap this up. And I'll just send him an email or a text or something tomorrow.
Absolutely.
But does anybody in the comments have a question before we wrap it up for the evening? And while we're doing that, I'll let some of this lovely B-roll. Let me do the TriCast, and I'll put this over here where we can see it next to Rudy, and then let's. So this is some of Rudy's B-roll. You said that starts at like 1:30. So yeah, this is actually the opening footage right here. This is some of the opening footage. It's kind of opens up here. Okay, there you go. D asks, when you were there on site, did you feel anything besides the awe of just being there? Now, is that specifically, you know, because you were in a lot of places. You were Gilgal Rephaim.
I can honestly. That's a great question. I can honestly tell you. For me specifically, I could definitely feel I could feel something in the spiritual sense in specific places. You know, I know that probably varies from person to person. I know that what I felt at Gilgal Rephaim was the same thing that I felt at the Huaca in Peru, which is a huge temple. And then
was that the temple where they had the door that was cut into the mountain?
That's right. That's where it's basically a triangular temple, makeshift temple, really, but it has a megalithic portal. That those megalithic portals are built like, yeah, the precision cut, the technology that was used to do that is like unbelievable, you know. But I very much felt the same thing there, and I felt the exact same thing walking into the shaman priest's home. So yeah, there's definitely. Yeah, definitely. From, you know, at least I feel like spiritually, you pick up on certain things. I don't like to use the word energies because it sounds way too new agey.
Yeah.
But that's really in essence what it is. You know? And then Dr. Alexa Brennan, who is the ex-New Ager, goes on to explain that there is actually a quasi-scientific equivalent in the way that the New Agers practice it, which is with vibrations. When people talk about vibes, you know, with the vibrations in the energy bodies. So I guess basically what we call the spiritual realm is what they call, you know, those energies or whatever. So, but yeah, that's a great question, Eric. That's for sure.
And Mr. Georgie Van Dorn said he said, I mean, the Serpent Mound was obviously amazing. So, and I'm guessing he's talking about the Serpent Mound in Gilgal, over there by Gilgal Rephaim in Golan. Because I know there's Serpent Mounds. There's a lot of Serpent Mounds here in North America.
Yeah, for sure. But the Serpent Mound is I mean, it's just for me. What I think is really, really cool is that he found it.
Yeah.
You know, it's been there all along, and it just somehow flew under the radar. And it's not just a natural formation. I mean, that would be ignorant to say that. You know, that was built. That was definitely built. Because the rest of the ground around it is flat as a pancake, man. You know?
So. Amazing. And Chris Caps wants to know. Oh, hold up. Well, yeah, let's do Chris Caps first. He said, "What was the best moment working with Carman?" I told you, man. He's right. He's like neck and neck with me on the Carman love, man.
Well, I'll tell you, if I'm being serious, one of the cool things about working with that guy was, honestly, he has a really good work ethic. You know, so that was really cool. That was really challenging. But I'll tell you this, one thing that was really cool especially for a guy my age, having grown in the church and having grown through the era of all the Steve Yake videos with Carman and all that, was hearing the stories behind the videos and the concepting of things like the champion and witch's invitation and all those other things that by today's standards so cheesy and corny, but at the time, their dramas and their youth outreaches and stuff. So, to the kid in me, that was one of the cool things actually working with him. And he was a joke. He was a jokester. He was a really funny guy. He was always on.
Oh yeah.
So
I did an interview with Tom Hemby.
It was a good time.
I did an interview with Tom Hemby, and a good portion of that was talking about Carman and how he called anytime he saw Tom. He's like, Tommy Salami. Tom Hemby described
he gave
Carman
everybody
a nickname, an Italian nickname. Yeah.
Everybody had a nickname. Yeah.
What I like about the way Hemby said it, he said if Carman God hadn't called him to be a preacher, he'd have been a mob boss. That's what Tom Hemby says.
100%.
See?
He loved the whole. Yeah. And he was one of the first guys that I ever knew that really got into MMA.
Really?
He was a huge MMA fan. So, yeah. So I think probably my first MMA fight that I ever saw, I probably saw with him, actually, come to think of it. So.
That's funny. All right, so
it was UFC.
Doug Van Dorn wants to know, Rudy, is the saxophone better or the guitar?
Troublemaker. He's troublemaker.
He says that with the saxophones, right? Right back there, right?
It depends on the application, Doug.
It depends on the song.
Back me up here.
Oh no, it depends.
Right.
Yeah. It depends on the song, man. Like a saxophone on the opening of Dust in the Wind. No, you got to have the 12-string guitar. That's right. Would electric guitar be able to do the intro of Careless Whisper than a saxophone? Absolutely not. It would be good.
That's
it would be different, but it wouldn't be the same.
Maybe the pan flute.
Oh. No, dude, Jonathan was the guys were like semi-roasting you earlier about they were waiting for you to pull out a pan flute. They're like, he's got a Bolivian pan flute in a pouch in his back pocket. He's just waiting to the perfect moment to pull it out to summon the Guardians so we can cast them out.
When we do the Goslings interview, I'll have the pan flute. And I don't play the pan flute. I just kind of had to just take my way through it. Fake it till you make it,
Doug said nice political
The iPhone
answer.
can take a lot of takes,
all right. And,
what do you say? Nice political.
Yeah, he said nice political
nice
answer.
Political answer.
D actually had a good. So this is for the. So we got to get the jokey musician hat off. So technical question. He said, "What kind of drones did you shoot with, and what were the restrictions for filming?" Which I'm sure, dude. What kind of licenses did you have to pull to shoot in there? Like I can't imagine.
That is a great question. Now, they were completely different in different places. The United States is by far the land of the free, where we have the most freedoms. The United States was very little that we had to do in terms of permits and stuff like that. We just pretty much showed up and filmed, which I'm sure is not necessarily the right thing to do technically. But I think we were fine. We had plenty of insurance anyway. So, but when we went to places like, for example, to Egypt or in some parts of Peru. In Peru, we got away with a little bit more because the operator was real gutsy, Matt Yancey. So he just got far away from he was using the MAV 2, I think, if I'm not mistaken.
Really?
Drone.
Really, the MAV 2?
Yeah. If I'm not mistaken, yeah.
It looks high. It looks higher res than that, to be honest with you. Did he have?
Well, he had a 4K, which I'm not really sure what. If the MAV 2 doesn't shoot 4K, whatever it was.
No, it does. It does.
MAV,
It's just like maybe it's just what you guys did in post because it looks.
Well, it was color. It was definitely color. Everything. The whole film went through the Da Vinci color correction. So Arturo Mesa, the colorist, is very, very talented and very meticulous. And so he took in the whole production between all the stuff that we shot domestically, which was, I mean, we filmed all over the United States, man. And as much as we wanted, we would have loved to have had the same cameras at every location. It was just not. It wasn't going to happen. It was prohibitive. So we probably had a dozen different cameras throughout the process of the whole entire thing, and he matched them, man. I mean, he sat there and he tweaked them all until he matched them all to give it a consistent look, and then he gave the film a look. So a general look. So, but places like Egypt just wasn't happening, and they threatened us. We catch you, we take it away. Well, first of all, if you bring it in the country, we're gonna take it. Don't bring it. Don't even bother bringing it. And then if they somehow caught you filming with it, they would arrest you. And they straight up told us, do not do that. So the only aerials that we ended up getting in Egypt, thankfully, were we did buy some stock stuff, but we did find a couple of hot air balloons, and we jumped all over that, because that was our way of getting some original stuff from the air.
Yeah,
exactly. And it was great, man, because it ended up being fantastic for where we talk about the agricultural seasons of Egypt, because that was germane to the construction of the pyramids. So it worked out great. But yeah, I mean, I'll tell you what, man, Egypt was probably the hardest place for permits and whatnot. It's become, and with good reason, man. I mean, the British Empire pretty much pillaged the treasures of Egypt. To this day, if you ever go to the British Museum in London, there are just rooms and rooms and rooms.
They have more of Egypt in there than Egypt has, right?
It's amazing, and from what I've been told, supposedly it's common knowledge, that there are hundreds of crates in the basement that haven't even been opened.
What?
So yeah.
So yeah. Lord knows what they got in there.
There's no telling. So the Egyptians are very, very protective of their natural treasures now, and so. Yeah, so it's very, very difficult. So there were a lot of hoops to jump through to be able to film in Egypt. Peru, not so much. Peru was a little bit more forgiving, but you still had to have certain permits in certain places, and they were more strict than others. But yeah.
Have you actually been down to in London where they have that, or you just know? But you just know of that from watching and reading stuff.
In London?
Yeah, where they have all those crates, like that's what D asked. He's like, it's like Indiana Jones, where it's just boxes and boxes at the end of Raiders.
Well, that's in effect what they have. It's that kind of thing. The warehouse is full of stuff. Now, I've gotten it from reliable sources. From I'm trying to remember the guy's name. Randall Price, I think, is the one who told me about that. And Randall Price is a very reputable archaeologist, and very much a historian, and so and he knows that stuff. So I'm pretty sure that's where I got it from, if not from John Ankerberger. So yeah, I could totally see that being the case, though, because I mean, if you walk through the British Museum has the Rosetta Stone, dude. So that should tell you everything.
Bonkers.
Yeah.
That's bonkers. Anybody else have any questions? Any more questions, comments? There are more pan flute. Oh my gosh! All about the pan flute. Just beware the giant guinea pigs. That's a nice South Park reference. Anybody else have a question? I'm gonna look at my. my list of stuff just in case. I'm pretty sure I got through everything. Yeah, we did your background. We got the music. We got film. We got Carman. We got angels, giants, Enoch. Why is it important? Film. Where did you film? Peruvian shaman. Geometry of megalithic structures. And yeah, we shared the links. And Dee's already bought a copy, and hopefully everybody else has bought their copy. Buys their copy before the night is over.
Hey, seriously, thank you to everybody who turned out, and thank you for the support. And
yes. Yeah, really, y'all do me a favor. Hit like on the stream. That's got 4 likes, but there's how many people watching in YouTube? There's 12 people watching on YouTube. So if you can just hit like on this in YouTube, push it up the algorithm a little bit, and share this tomorrow. Just share it with one friend. You don't have to share it with a zillion people, but I know we all have those buddies. See, this is my Nephilim conversation buddy. This is one of my Nephilim conversation buddies. When I want to talk giants, I either talk to Jonathan or Nick or Rudy or Brandon. Sometimes my wife, but typically she's asleep because she goes to bed early. So we all have that person that we talk about these strange things in the Bible with. I know all of you, like I'm Dee's Nephilim buddy. That's why D got a copy, because we were in the studio. We were producing stuff for these pop stars in Korea, and in between takes, we're sitting there watching Chuck Missler back in 2009, 2010. So he is witness to this. I got him on this. I got Brandon on this. I mean, to me, it's just crucial to understanding these things in Scripture, and that's how Jonathan, I'm sure he'll tell you, that's how he kind of came back to the Lord. He's like, kind of started to buy into the lies of the what's his face, Dawkins, of God being this, masochistic, fatalistic. What's the one where they're murderous? He does that whole spiel, but basically genocidal. That's it. Genocidal, homicidal, because it's right there in the Bible. He said, "Kill them all." He's the Emperor Palpatine. But when you understand the War of the Seeds,
it puts it into perspective. It really does.
100%. All right, y'all. That is it. Rudy, don't go anywhere. I'm gonna say something to you real quick but I'm gonna wrap this up for everybody else if I can find the right button. There it is. Okay, y'all. So the links. If you haven't got your Jesus Deserves More Than 4 Chords shirt, that's the only plug I'm doing for me. But other than that, buy this film and then buy my T-shirt after you buy this film. Share it with your friends. Jesus loves you. So do we. Be following. Make sure you go over to the Goslings. Make sure you follow Rod Saunders over at Jew and Greek. But the Goslings, July 9th, Rudy will be on there, and they will be getting deep into the subject of the film because they'll have watched the film by that point. Okay. Thank you. Yep. Thank you, Brother Dan Van Dorn. Thank you for your work. Thank you for your contributions to the kingdom. May the Lord bless you, keep you. May his face shine upon you, be gracious to you, lift up his countenance upon you, and give you his shalom. Jesus loves you. So do we. Take care.